Fuck. Shit. Okay, so I'm pretty sure I'm streaming right now. I have 2 people watching and it's telling me to rotate my device, but I refuse to do that. Hello, I apologize. Let me just pull up the chat here on my laptop. Okay, so I'm good. I don't know why it's... I'm sorry for the shaking. I have a really shitty camera setup, so give me a second. Okay. Hello. So I'm going to be live streaming and discussing this fucking bombshell of an Onision interview that Chris Hansen did. We are joined by my guests Iggy and Dodger, who is off screen, and I'm setting up a bonfire. Gotta find my lighter first. I'm just gonna get this all set up while I wait for people to join the stream. How the fuck do you open this? I should have prepared, but I have to get this thing open first. There we go. Yes, we will be discussing the Chris Hansen stream that happened tonight. And it was an absolute fucking doozy. That can be sure. This stream that Chris Hansen did, not mine, felt like... Well, I mean, the ball is obviously rolling with, like, certain charges happening with Onision, but this stream in particular with Regina that happened tonight felt like a linchpin. Like, it feels like this is, like, the one, if that makes sense. So, excuse me for 1 minute, I have to go grab a cigarette. Okay, I'm back. So, I would like to start this stream off by sharing just kind of my general, like, my experiences with Onision. I mean, I've never talked or spoken to the guy, but it's like my perspective on, you know, him. To me, I've always been kind of a neutral party. I've kind of known that Greg is like a creep. It's kind of been like an open secret on YouTube since like the inception of YouTube, I guess, because he's like one of the YouTube OGs. And when I think of Onision, at least before all these allegations, in my mind, I think of him as that fucker who killed his turtle. Like, that was always, like, the point of contention for me, is that he fucking put his turtle under a plastic bin and left him out in the sun to fucking bake him alive. And it's just, ugh, it's so gross. And there definitely were some... There was a controversy in regards to that turtle situation. I think the turtle's name was Reptar. Um, but yeah, that's just, I've always just in my mind, that's just what I've thought of him as, is like the turtle asshole. Um, but now that this shit is going on, I've spent like months, not months, hours. I'm stoned. I've spent like hours, like watching Onision content, like content made about him, not his own content, and just kind of studying the mind of madness, I guess. And I have a lot of opinions on who he is. Yeah. Um, so my basic thoughts on Greg as a person is I don't think he really knows who he is. Um, I don't think he like has his own personal identity. He and this also comes from things that I've just experienced in my own life with people like Greg, is he always feels a need to sexualize everything. And he does that to people as like a way to wear them down, to where like sexual conduct involving him is just kind of commonplace. So like when things do happen, again, everything is alleged, but when things do happen, it's kind of like expected of him, which is kind of a way to both excuse himself and also dig himself a deeper hole. Um, and the hole he tends to dig himself into is typically around 16 or 17 years old. I would make an entire dedicated video to Onision at some point. I would love to. In early December, I'm going to be moving to a ski resort to do some seasonal work there. And while I'm there, I'm gonna have my own personal space, and I can do a lot of filming and stuff in there. So I do plan to do so, and I will be making a lot of videos while I'm there. Um, and one of the videos I would like to make is definitely going to be about Onision. Trust me, because this entire fucking situation with all these allegations has been, I don't want to say mind-boggling because it's very expected of him, but it's just seeing it all come out, it's like pure catharsis. Um, so I would like to start talking about tonight's stream with Regina, who was someone who Kai, Onision's spouse, contacted um, when they were like 16, I believe she said. And they had kind of a quasi relationship online, and there was a lot of illicit pictures sent, again, underage, which is illegal federally, according to Chris Hansen. And I just want to say, Chris Hansen has done such a phenomenal fucking job with like handling this story. He's a very charismatic person, and he asks really good questions, which is, I think, in Onision's case in particular, is very important to just ask questions about why these are happening, and asking them to the people who know him firsthand. Um, and it's just very enlightening to get these other perspectives, because for years now, Onision has been like silencing these people, using his fan base to like go after his ex-wife and Shiloh, etc., to like to where they don't feel safe enough to come out with their experiences with him. And I'm very glad that Chris Hansen is doing this, and it would have taken a person like Chris Hansen to bring these things to light. So he said in the stream tonight that he's not done with the story at all, that he has loads of things planned in terms of discussing this, and I cannot wait. It's such a fascinating conversation to be having, because again, Onision has kind of been like an open secret about how much of a creep he is, but nobody's really been doing anything about it. Also, I spur of the moment decision to have a bonfire while doing this stream, and it is doing wonders for the lighting on this video. I look amazing. So, a lot of the things that Regina discussed were things that resonated with me, like, very strongly. I haven't had any Onision level experiences per se, but just I've come across, because I've been on the internet for most of my life, I've come across a lot of people like him. Um, so this is not really on topic, but a good portion of my teenage years were spent heavily in an like online trolling community, especially in regards to Chris Chan, and there was like rigid structures and rules in this group that you had to follow, and there was a charismatic leader figure of the group, and a lot of the things he did were similar to what Greg did, and not like I'm not trying to say anything like in terms of like sexual conduct, whatever, but just like trying to make yourself a member of the group. It was very like a cult like mentality, and I was a vulnerable teenager and went along with this and did a lot of things that I'm not proud of, just because I wanted to like prove myself to this person and the people in the group. And to give an example, there was like a weird initiation process with the group. One of the things I had to do, there's Iggy. One of the things I had to do was read all of the Starship Troopers books, or book. I don't know if there's more than one, but I remember reading a lot, because it was like a mandatory thing. Like, if you want to be part of this group, you have to do these things to prove your loyalty to us, which um, Billy in particular went through something similar. Like, oh, you have to brand us with the ship name Lily, which is the Lainey and Billy ship name, and it's just fucking gross that Greg. I say Greg like a Canadian. I know that Greg would like try to brand a human being with this fucking fake ass like online ship name, and then he goes on to say that, oh yeah, internet drama isn't real, but yeah, I want to have this fucking vulnerable girl brand herself with the name that the online community that I've fostered have created for this relationship that also was fostered in the same online community. Um, I just feel so much for Regina. I'm very happy with how she did in this stream. This interview in particular with Chris Hansen, I, not to take anything away from the other girls, of course, but like she was so fucking composed and like articulate about her experiences. Not that the others weren't, but she was on the ball. Like she answered the questions very well, and it was just wonderful to see. Because in this conversation, uh, with Chris Hansen, they got to like the heart of the issue in terms of criminal charges that could be raised against Greg, um, and I'm sorry, my fucking cigarette went out, and it was mentioned, and I know Greg heard this because he's obviously watching these streams. He might deny that he is, but he's obviously not. Chris Hansen just said, you know, for any of these pictures or any single frame of these videos that may be child, that could get 10 years for each fucking instance of it. And Greg has to be shaking his fucking boots, I imagine, because, like, I didn't even know that. And Jesus goddamn Christ, it's deserved. But just hearing the reality of it from a respected person like Chris Hansen, it was... This whole thing is so surreal that after over a decade of, like, just people kind of half knowing about what's going on with Onision, just after a decade having all of these things come to light is just mind-blowing. That is a good point to bring up his books. Whoever just said that in the chat, I can't really see it. I just saw the comment. I've been listening to his books. There are unauthorized audiobooks on YouTube of his writing, and it is tied for the worst books I've ever read. And the other worst book I've ever read is also by a YouTuber. Like his writing, and not just his fiction writing, but like when he makes public statements, and even when he speaks, it like borders on incoherent. Like it's very clear to me that he does not read through these things before he posts them. I mean, obviously with the whole sue your shoe thing, but he just does not know how to word anything. But he also thinks he's like the ultimate authority on communication, essentially. Like he feels he knows so strongly about how human beings interact, but also he lives in this fucking bubble that this bubble echo chamber of his own fandom that just parrot back his own views to him, and he's completely disconnected from reality, essentially. And it's clear to me that he's disconnected from reality based on his most recent video, the comedy video he made where he pretends that he's being interviewed by Chris Hansen, and it's like it's like a mock live stream interview with Chris Hansen where he's responding to what pre-recorded things of Chris Hansen are saying, and he does it in such a way where he pretends like, oh yeah, Chris Hansen is my baby daddy, and it's like supposed to be funny, but it's like 7 minutes long and it's completely fucking uncomfortable. It's so goddamn uncomfortable. It genuinely may be the worst YouTube video I've ever seen. And I've been on YouTube as long as Greg has. I've been on YouTube since 5th fucking grade when YouTube launched. So I have seen the entire development of this website essentially firsthand. And yet Greg is the worst. He is the single worst that I've come across. And I know there are people who have done worse things than him, but in terms of just like maliciousness and evil, I just can't fucking think of a worse one besides like Pelican Entertainment, who made that video where he murdered his cat. I'm gonna check the stream real quick. Sorry. Yeah, the video call. I'm assuming you're referring to the one with Regina. Is a must-watch. All of the Chris Hansen interviews are just compelling. They're fucking like, fuck. Like this stream ended like an hour ago, or over an hour ago at now, and I was so fucking blown away by what happened. I was like applauding in like as things were happening because it was just so cathartic to finally hear these things said to such a respected figure like Chris Hansen. And I'm blown away by the strength of all these girls coming forward to share their experiences with Greg, and it's so fucking satisfying to see, because especially now after Regina's interview, I feel like things are actually gonna start like happening in terms of like actual charges, and these are charges that have needed to happen for a long fucking time. So one thing that has been very present it's been mentioned a few times in the interviews, is how, I don't know, it was Sarah's case, because that interview was kind of further back in my mind, so I don't remember the details as much as I do like the ones with Shiloh and Regina that happened recently. But man, parents really got to monitor what the fuck their kids are doing online, and teenagers especially, they're not going to listen. But as you get older, you really do kind of realize that in some instances your parents really do have your back. And the mothers of Shiloh and Regina, they really did try to stop these things from happening, and it's just great that now that they're older and have done introspection about these things, that they're kind of aware that their parents did have their back on these things, and I'm very happy to hear that. I'm not going to get into my own relationship with my parents, but they're not perfect like any parents are, but there have been some experiences that I've had where I do look back and think that my parents did have my best interests in mind, especially in regards to the trolling group that I was a part of. I got way too much into that, and some really bad shit ended up happening to me, and my parents did try to warn me about it, and I do wish I had listened to them. Okay, fuck it. I'll just discuss that right now real quick. This was around when I was 14, a couple years before I came out of the closet to my parents, and I ended up coming out of the closet to this one member of the group. His name was Damon. Hi, Damon, if you're watching. And I shared a lot of information about my family with him, and it resulted in me being manipulated and me being doxxed myself. And I ended up having pizzas sent to my house. I know, but I was like 14, so I was fucking terrified. And this is not to equate my experience with anything that Shiloh or Sarah or Regina or Sky went through. Of course, I'm just sharing my own whatever. Um, and yeah, you really do have to, in these certain cases, even if it's not your parents, if it's your friends or anyone just saying, hey, you need to look out because this person is manipulating and taking advantage of you. When people say that, they mean it. And you really do need to, even if not in the moment, you need to at least catalog that in the back of your head and listen. And just, I don't know, the hindsight is 20 fucking 20. Um, there's just, it's over a decade of bullshit that Greg has been doing. And there's just so much I could fucking touch on. And I've always had an opinion of him, but I've never really felt the need to share it. I've mentioned it offhand a few times, but I never really felt the need to share it until now with this interview, because it was just, it really felt like, if not the final nail, but like the second final nail in the coffin for Greg. Yeah, fuck. So, another thing I wanted to touch on would be the entire like forum thing, because I've like, it's again like an open secret that Greg uses his forums to get pictures of young girls to rate in his videos, but just hearing the words out of Regina's mouth and the other things that were being done in those forums, like grown men going in, knowing that these forums are full of vulnerable young girls, and like Greg, he says shit like, "Oh well, these forums are 18 plus, so if they were on there, they would have lied about their age." But that fucking removes any culpability from him, which is, I mean, that's always his end goal, is to take the blame away from himself. But like, these are your forums. They're called the Onision forums. This is an environment that you've created and fostered multiple fucking times, and that this has been a thing that's happened multiple fucking times. But like, you can choose to just not have these kind of forums. You can choose to do that, but he acts like that's like just out of the question. And it's like I said in my previous video last night, Greg acts like he's the ultimate arbiter of truth, and like any mistakes he makes, it just goes without saying that it was not his fault. And it's just so disgusting to see, because this man has children. He has 2 kids, and I just cannot imagine growing up having that as like your father figure. Um, this is a few months ago, I believe, but it's kind of recently come back into the public zeitgeist of Onision bullshit. Lainey was on a stream or did a mukbang video or some shit about Taco Bell, which, by the way, great content, Lainey. I love your content, Lainey. I love watching you eat Taco Bell. That's worthy of having a Patreon. Is, yeah, pay me money so I can eat fucking Taco Bell. So Lainey did a Taco Bell mukbang at one point, and in the background you could hear Greg just yelling at the kids, and it's horrifying. He's like you can hear the kids repeatedly calling for their mom, and Greg is like, "You little fucking." You can't hear everything because it's like in the distance, but you hear like, "You little fucking," and he says shit like, I I would love, I mean, honestly, if I was in Lainey's position, I would love to be paid to eat Taco Bell. But I mean, I'm not intentionally trying to do that with my fucking Patreon, because mukbang is not content. That is not, I just don't think that shit should be on YouTube. It's just nothing. You're just eating food. It's nothing. But anyway, so yeah, Greg can be hearing in the background just shouting at his children, telling them to take some responsibility. And these are like kids that are, as far as I know, they're like maybe at the oldest 7 years old at the most. And just knowing how Greg talks to people, and knowing that there are children in a house being talked to like this, and also that these kids are in this house seeing this fucking revolving door of young girls coming in and out, it's just, I'm so fucking scared for Greg's kids, to be honest. Like, I don't know if they're doing public schooling or not, and I mean, if they are doing public school, as they get older, they're just gonna be fucked. Like, I mean, like, screwed. It will be bad for them to do public education, because kids are gonna look up and know, oh, the kid sitting next to me, their dad is this fucking psychopath Jim Jones wannabe. And that's not gonna be good for anybody in that situation. And the alternative would be them doing homeschooling, which would honestly be even fucking worse, because Greg and Lainey do not put any effort into raising their kids. It's been shown. And imagine those two trying to fucking homeschool kids. That wouldn't work. What would they do? Hire a nanny like Greg had when he was a kid? It's just, it's honestly such a disgusting fucking situation. And that all of this is finally coming to light is just very, it's both gratifying and grotesque. And I don't think schadenfreude is the right term, but it's just like a morbid curiosity into the mind of a genuine monster. And that's like why I'm fascinated with like the Onision oeuvre. His content, not so much. I've honestly never watched a single one of his videos. I mean, I've seen clips, of course, but his videos are just fucking garbage, honestly. And like, that's the backbone of his entire online identity is his YouTube videos, and they're some of the worst videos I've ever fucking seen. He has a video called Joker at the Office, where it's just him doing like a fantasy of a mass shooting in an office, and it's so fucking bad. He also in this mass shooting video, he like pretends that he's the Joker because that's like a fixation of his that he loves the Joker, and one of his like trademark Onision characters is his Joker persona, and it's like the worst fucking impression of the Joker I've ever fucking heard. He I honestly don't think he even tries to do an impression of Heath Ledger's Joker anymore. He just likes seeing himself dressed up as that character, which is honestly very fucking disconcerting. Um, I would like to open the floor to questions because I'm kind of running out of things to say, but I do want to continue this stream because I'm having fun doing this. Um, Questions? Yeah, yeah, Dogman, you're right. She literally just like, and if we can hear it in the background of the video, of course Lainey can hear it in the fucking house, and she just doesn't do anything about it because Lainey doesn't care. She's back to Regina. This stream was mostly centered around Lainey. This Chris Hansen stream, this latest one he did, and it was mostly centered around Lainey. And it's just, I've always known kind of that Lainey was fucked in the head, but it's honestly difficult now to say whether or not she is as bad or worse than Greg. She's just a fucking monster. I have opinions about Kai's uh, trans status that I don't want to share because I could be wrong. But it feels like less of a transition and more like Greg psychologically manipulating his spouse into like defeminization, because that's like a trend. He likes women wearing men's clothes. He likes women shaving their head. He likes women degrading themselves. And if you are living with a person like that, you're gonna eventually go along with it. And it's just, I'm not gonna say if Kai is transsexual or trans because that's not my place to say, but Kai is not a trans person in a very healthy and welcoming environment. I will leave it at that. And again, I'm a cisgendered gay man, so it's not really my place to say, but that's just what I'm perceiving it as. Which, speaking of cisgender gay men, I believe at one point Greg tried to claim that because he's married to a trans man, he now has authority to talk about gay issues and that he could qualify as a gay man, which is fucking ridiculous. Greg has a consistent pattern of being unappealed by the male form. Greg is not attracted to men. I just leave it at that. And also, kind of off topic, I do want to give shout outs to two in particular channels that I've been watching who make content about Greg that I really enjoy. The first one is a user named Deity, who is like a up and coming commentary channel. I think he has more subscribers than me though, so I mean, but I've kind of fallen behind on YouTube. But yeah, Deity, his videos are very good. He's a cool guy. And also the user Calico Speaks, who makes tarot card readings, analyzing the whole Onision situation. And I know it sounds kind of out there, but it's some of the most compelling videos ever made about Greg. I think it's uh, my niece is watching me doing this shit from the sidelines. Um, yeah, Calico Speaks and Deity. Check them both out. Their channels should get a lot of support because I like what they're doing. Um, yeah. I I really have to give props to Blair White as well. That is Dodger in the background. Props to Blair White. Her interview with Chris Hansen also kind of got the ball rolling about this whole story. Um, and I just have mad respect for Blair White. I love her content. In particular, her interview with Jessica Yaniv is like fucking legendary. It's maybe the best debate I've ever seen on YouTube, and I've seen a lot. Come here. Get up. Much like Greg has a tendency to do, I am using my dogs to manipulate my viewers. I myself have been doing pretty good. I used to have a room basically that I could film in, and due to my living conditions, things have changed, and I wasn't able to have a space to film my own videos in. But that's going to be changing soon because I'm starting a new job in December that will give me my own space. Yeah, so things were not so good because I was also in some pretty unhealthy relationships. But things are improving, and I'm working a lot on myself and improving myself and doing a lot of introspection. And I am happy, and I'm confident with where I am now. Once the job ends, because it should be ending around March, I am going to be moving into a van and starting to travel cross country, doing work on the road. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to be working on the second draft of my screenplay because I have been writing a horror movie. And I plan to finish the first draft during this job at the seasonal job I'm going to be working from December to March. And also, while I'm doing this job, I'm going to be able to film a lot of commentaries. And I would like to get back into the YouTube game because I feel like I have I don't want to say a unique voice because I'm a white gay dude, but I do like to hear myself talk, and I do like making commentaries. And the YouTube climate has changed so much in just the short, 2 years since I've been gone, that I would love to offer my perspective as kind of an old timer, I guess. Yeah. So that's basically what I've been up to, and that's my thoughts on the recent Onision drama. So if anybody has any questions regarding Onision or whatever, I would like to open them up before I end the stream. So yeah, you guys have until I finish the cigarette to ask your questions. Yep. And I'm not gonna make you guys just watch a video of me smoking a cigarette in silence. It'd be like a Master H video. Which, speaking of Master H, I'm not gonna share his social media stuff because that's not my place to do. But I do follow him on social media, and that guy is out of his fucking mind. I've met him in person a couple times, and he is a very fascinating person. I know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's a different Blair White on YouTube, but she has some really good videos about. What? I'm sorry. They're in the garage. Yeah, Blair White, she makes her content is pretty good. I haven't watched any of her other content besides Onision and the Jessica Yaniv stuff, but She is clearly very, very intelligent and articulate. Come here, Dodger. Come here. So, yeah, so this is Dodger. We do have a third dog that we just got. I will go get her in a second. Yeah. Jessica Blair White is a right-wing trans activist, which, again, I'm not going to try to get into politics, but it's her choice. It just makes sense to me, I guess, that there would be right-wing trans people, because, I mean, being trans shouldn't necessarily have to sway your personal beliefs in terms of political stuff. Onision himself has made a video about this topic, and it was complete horseshit about how, like, he feels all trans people should be leftists, which I just don't agree with, because, again, that's just putting people who are already in a box, in an even smaller box, which I don't kind of like that at all. I'm going to go get the third puppy we have so I can show her off to you guys. Just give me 1 second. So, this lovely lady I'd like you to meet is named Sugar. So, this is Sugar. We got her, she's 5-6 months old, and she is a complete big bitch. Dodger is terrified of her. Iggy loves her. She's kind of completely taken over our household. I mean, that's not really a bad thing, though. She's a sweetheart. Sugar is a bulldog, a English bulldog. My brother, as a side profession, he breeds bulldogs. It's not a puppy mill. It's very professional and clean and like authorized and shit. And I guess my parents are trying to get into that too, so they're, I guess, going to try using her as a breeding sow, but I want to try to get her out of that as soon as I can. Again, if I move into the van, I would like to take both Sugar and Iggy with me. I would not be able to take Dodger. Yeah. So, any more questions before I close the stream? Okay. Commentaries, when I bring them back, they're going to be a little bit more, I don't want to say cinematic or surreal, but I do plan to do a lot more, like, different camera shots and stuff, and just more than just me talking at a camera, essentially. I would like to revisit Blonde Boy. My first commentary back is going to be on Amberlynn Reed, who is a weight loss YouTuber, vlogger. So yeah, weight loss YouTuber, which again is a topic that is not really for me to say, but I do have an opinion on her. So yeah, I guess that finishes things up. I've kind of shared all my thoughts so far. Any other comments or questions, you can ask them. You can ask them in the comments of the stream below, and I will get to them as soon as I can. So, thank you for watching, and I wish you all the best. Oh God.